Hello everyone, I'm day weather meteorologist Don Day with your weekly weather update for this March 18th. Well, the California area, the Rockies, and the desert Southwest are going to get more rain and some mountain snow. Going to see some nice March moisture continue to move into the far western states. It's been great to see here over the last couple of weeks, and it's going to continue here for a bit longer. Most of the nation, coast to coast, will get wet, just a few exceptions. And the pattern across the United States and all of North America stays very active into April, really best described as typical spring weather. It's going to be pretty active, much like last spring was when we start looking at things. Here's your 10-day precipitation forecast. You can continue to see the heaviest moisture is on the central and eastern side of the United States. The dry areas of Texas are really erasing that dryness that they had earlier. Then, of course, we've got some heavy precipitation here in the south central and southeast United States. Iowa, eastern Nebraska, Wisconsin, eastern and southeastern South Dakota, eastern Nebraska, the areas that were so wet from last year's summer and spring. I'm going to see rain, and some of this is going to be snow here over the next week to 10 days. So their spring pattern looking more moist. Then you can see across Mexico into the desert Southwest and the central Rockies. This is a pretty active pattern here. California's picked up some really good rain and some good mountain snow here recently. And there's more coming over the next week to 10 days and probably beyond. Some of the northern Rockies of Canada back into Idaho and the Pacific Northwest also doing well. Just a few dry areas in southern Canada, part of the far northern plains, and down here in Florida. But the rest of the country is going to see an active storm track cutting like this through the country. And that's going to keep us in an active, very typical late March weather pattern. When we take a look at temperatures for the United States, we see that over the next 10 days, these are our average temperatures between now and a week from this Saturday. Notice the blue and the green, all in the western states. So most of the western half of the country, including Canada, will be cooler than average for, well, the next week and a half. The warmth continues to be centered over the east and especially the southeastern United States, but it's a warm, wet pattern here for sure. Now, let's see how the pattern evolves. This is where we are as of today. This is the low that's been spinning around over the last few days, bringing the west coast some rain. But a piece of this storm, this guy right here, this little low, is going to kick out and become a pretty strong storm tonight and Thursday in this area here. Then it's going to march towards the upper Midwest, the western Corn Belt, and the Great Lakes. Behind it, well, we've got another wave coming. There's another little guy out here, and then there's another system up here. All of these are going to still have to move through the western United States because we still have a big area of high pressure here in the Gulf of Alaska, a big high pressure here in the southeastern United States. So storms are going to be favored in the western part of the country. This is where we are by tomorrow. You can see we have 4 lows all lined up across the western United States. So these all are going to have to move through the country, mainly the west here over the next week and a half. This is where we are by Monday. The storms consolidate a little bit. We've got a bigger, larger one here, smaller one kicking on out. This guy right here will be a pretty good weather maker next week for the West Coast again. And then it's going to move into the Rockies by the middle to the end of next week with more to come. Now, taking a look out to the next 90 days, this is something we'll update you on going forward. All indications suggest that we're looking at a pattern that is likely going to be cooler than normal. At least that's what the modeling is showing right now. We have to take this with a grain of salt. We may see the model overdoing it a little bit, but this spring is showing a lot of signs of last spring. It could be quite cool, or at least cooler than normal, out here in this part of the United States. And then when we look at precipitation, look at all the blue and the green. Most of the lower 48 is going to have a wet spring. April through June looking wet. The blue is much above average precipitation. Green is above average. Just Florida here, the Pacific Northwest showing the biggest dryness. But this continues to favor what is looking like to be another wet spring for a lot of the country, including some of the key areas of the western and northwest areas of the Corn Belt, which are already very wet. The 30-day outlook continues to show that trend. Cooler than normal in the west, warmest in the east. This is through April 17th. Through April 17th, precipitation is forecasted to be above average, basically just along and near I-80 and point south. With the northern plains, southern Canada, the Pacific Northwest drier than normal, but an active jet stream pattern is going to cut right through here over the next 4 weeks, keeping that part of the country wet and occasionally stormy. Our next update will be the 25th. Thanks for watching and have a good week ahead.